Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the live stream today. We've had massive overnight barrage of missiles and rockets on both sides, actually. We only talked about this on yesterday's Walk and Talk, but actually the day before, even before most of this had even started to kick off. And this, of course, is Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now, you remember a while back, I talked about this anyway, because we had this statement out from the consulate advising UK citizens to leave the region. So we're going back a while now, but we've had a fresh warning, and this has come from David Lammy, actually, of all people, warning UK citizens to leave the region, Lebanon and the surrounding countries. But overnight has been pretty wild. I'm going to get straight into the articles today so you can see what's taken place over the last 24 hours. And then we'll jump across to a couple of other places. We've got the US Navy, Philippines, North Korea as well. There's a lot to talk about today, but we'll get through it fairly quickly. Hezbollah fires new barrage at Israel after the electronic devices bombing. This happened on Thursday night, so this happened last night, and it continued its drumbeat of exchanges with the Israeli military as fears of a greater war rise after all of these electronic devices exploded in Lebanon. The death toll is now 32 people, including 2 children, and is wounded more than 3,000 others, many civilians who were in the region when these devices went off. Hezbollah said on Thursday it had targeted military positions in northern Israel without specifying what weapons it used. Israeli hospitals reported they treated at least 8 patients injured in the attacks. The military said early on Thursday it had struck several militant sites in southern Lebanon overnight. The volley of strikes was a signal by Hezbollah that it would continue its near daily fire, which it says is a show of support for Hamas amid Israel's 11-month-old campaign in Gaza in retaliation for the October 7th attack. Israel began moving more troops to its border with Lebanon on Wednesday as a precautionary measure, Israeli officials said. Israel's army chief, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, said plans have been drawn up for additional action against Hezbollah, though media reported the government has not yet received or not yet decided whether to launch a major offensive. Well, that's an interesting statement right there, because if you remember yesterday's Walk and Talk, the defense minister, I think, had let the cat out the bag, as it were, because he basically said we are preparing for this new ground invasion. We've moved the more specialist brigades, which was the paratroopers and commandos and special forces. We've moved them up. So he's already said that, but now it seems as though a lot of those statements have either disappeared or they've been amended, and it's been quite heavily backtracked. But I think once you've said something, you can't take it back. And I think we know what is coming down the line here. The explosions have rattled anxious Lebanese fearing a full-scale war. The Lebanese army said it's been locating and detonating suspicious pagers and communication devices, while the country's civil aviation authorities banned pagers and walkie-talkies on all airplanes departing from Beirut's international airport until further notice. See, that's another point. I wonder when this detonation took place. Did the operatives that did it, we already know who it was, but did they actually know, or did they think about this? What if a plane was taken off as they did these detonations? What if one of those people was on an aircraft? That would have been not good, let's just say that. But I think you think about where these detonations took place anyway. A lot of them were in markets and civilian areas, so I don't really think the civilian population was even thought of with this. And I say this because there was a number of people, always the case, yesterday were leaving comments saying, oh, Neil, you need to support, Israel no matter what, even if they do things like this. And I'm saying, Well, actually, if you look under international law, that's an illegal act. Actually, detonating. They're classed as booby traps under international law. You can look this up. So it isn't legal to do things like that. So I just find it funny when people put in the comments, Neil, it seems as though you don't approve and support this. No, I don't support things that are illegal acts. No, funny enough. Let's continue on with the article then. Many suffered gaping wounds on their legs, abdomens, and faces, or were maimed in the hand. Tuesday's pager blast killed 12 people, including 2 children, and wounded some 2,800 others. The following day's explosion killed 20 and wounded more than 450. The health minister praised Lebanon's hospitals, saying they'd managed to deal with the flood of wounded within hours. It was an indiscriminate attack. It was a war crime, is what the health minister has claimed. And then we have a professor of law, just to back up what I said here, and international peace studies, the University of Notre Dame in Indiana, said booby traps are banned under international law. Weaponizing an object used by civilians is strictly prohibited, she said. So that is the facts of the matter, whether some people like that or not. So what happened then? Israel strikes back on Lebanon after Lebanon fired the rockets. We've had this warning as well. It could amount to a declaration of war by Israel and warned of a reckoning in response. This is by a number of leaders here. His televised threats came after Hezbollah launched missiles and drones into northern Israel, killing at least 2 soldiers, so these are IDF soldiers, and injuring 9 more. The Israeli military then said it had targeted the Shia group's rocket launchers and weapons depots with new airstrikes, even while Nasrallah was speaking. This is Lammy then, David Lammy, the UK Defence Minister. He repeated advice for British citizens to leave Lebanon amid fears this conflict could escalate. He said he was concerned by rising tensions and civilian casualties, he wrote on X. My message to British nationals in Lebanon is leave while commercial options remain. Tensions are high and the situation could deteriorate rapidly. Israel has signals that it could send troops into Lebanon, so this is what we talked about yesterday, to quell more than 10 months of Hezbollah rocket fire that has emptied its northern towns of their inhabitants and make them safe for their return. Hezbollah is a powerful force in Lebanon and last fought a war with Israel in 2006. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but I do. It was pretty bad at the time. And the Lebanese ambassador to London, who is not linked to the group, said that an Israeli ground invasion could draw in reprisals from Tehran and its proxies in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. So this is kind of a big deal, actually, because you can imagine if there was this ground offensive, and maybe that's why they have paused at the moment and they're not announcing too much on it, and that's probably why those comments that came out by the defense minister were then changed on the media outlets or withdrawn, and they're saying they're not sure now, because you've got to think about the art of surprise as well. That is, and people talk about the art of surprise in what happened in the Kursk region with Ukraine going into Russia. Actually, that wasn't a surprise attack, although a lot of military analysts keep saying that. There's a lot of documents out now that Russia knew that attack was most likely. They'd already done all of their intel, and they thought that would be the most likely place that Ukraine would go into. But the fact of the matter was, although they kind of slowed, it didn't make any difference when you think about that, what took place there. BBC, Israel says 100 Hezbollah rocket launchers hit in Lebanon. So there was a lot of strikes overnight here. And the IDF said the launchers were ready to be fired against Israel. I don't know if that is true or not, but that is what the BBC is reporting here. Lebanon's state-run national news agency said Israel carried out at least 52 strikes in the south of the country on Thursday evening. They said it also launched strikes on military sites in northern Israel. So there's footage you can see on this as well. Here we go. BBC isn't the best for the footage, by the way. Apparently that's distressing, seeing some smoke. But the other thing I wanted to show you then, remember we talked about these devices, two firms based in Taiwan and Hungary. So now this is developed even further. Originally, the blame was put on this Taiwanese company, and they said, hey, it wasn't us at all. We licensed it to a Hungarian company in Budapest. Well, now the Hungarian company has come out and said, no, we didn't do it either. This is nothing to do with either of us. And now it's getting put the blame on a Japanese company. I haven't seen the statement from them yet, but no doubt they'll say they didn't do it either. So it's a kind of mystery. No one seems to know where these pages were made. It was something like 2014 since they were last made. Bulgaria's state security agency also said none of the pages that exploded on Tuesday were imported to, exported from, or made in Bulgaria. I don't know why this is now coming up. Maybe Bulgaria has been accused as well. On Thursday morning, fighters in southern Lebanon fired 2 anti-tank missiles across the border, followed by drones. This is why 2 IDF soldiers were killed, a 3rd injured. Now, one thing that's quite interesting, the manufacture of these exploding walkie-talkies supplies the US military. Well, how accurate that statement is, I'm not 100%, because they are already saying, everyone's saying, well, it wasn't us. So now we've got this Japanese manufacturer that supplies the US military. Apparently it was them that their equipment was used. No doubt they'll deny it as well, but they've supplied for more than 30 years the Pentagon. It's saying here as well, an update, that Israel hasn't yet made any official comment about these, and I very much doubt they will. The government said it had no advanced knowledge, the US government that is, of these attacks. And the company said they haven't made these walkie-talkies since 2004 to 2014. So again, it is a mystery, but security experts believe Israel packed explosives into walkie-talkies before they were supplied to Hezbollah and was able to detonate them by sending a remote signal. So the latest theory is that there was 3 grams of explosives put into each one. Britain has come out and called for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. That's David Lammy. He seems to be in all the news at the moment. He's only just started making a making a name for himself, as it were. But moving over, North Korea's nuclear capabilities are advancing rapidly, says this US general. So this is Joe Biden's nominee to lead the US forces in Korea then. And he said North Korea's rapid advancements of its nuclear and missile capabilities, combined with its stated ambition to exponentially expand its nuclear arsenal, is the single greatest challenge facing the Tri-Command. And this was General Xavier Brunson, who is, here we go, North Korea leader this month vowed to steadily strengthen the country's United Nations sanctioned nuclear program in response to the grave security threat posed by the US and the Allies. Having spent the last 5 years focused on the Indo-Pacific, I can tell you that the environment is both complex and dynamic, Brunson said. I'm aware of the threat South Korea faces and fully understand my role, if confirmed, is ensuring a constant state of readiness for all forces on the peninsula. Now, out of Fox News then, the Navy, the US Navy, is preparing for China conflict with newly announced strategy. The CCP has made clear its intentions to bolster its military in preparation for action against Taiwan by 2030. I think they're stretching a little bit with this statement. I've read the document. Fox is saying it as if this is a 100% fact that the PLA are going to do this in 2027, but the document isn't 100% clear on that, just so you are aware. This navigation plan drives towards 2 strategic ends: readiness for the possibility of war with the People's Republic of China by 2027, and enhancing the Navy's long-term advantage, the report states. The 2027 deadline for Navy modernization relates to Xi Jinping's stated goal of preparing the PLA for an invasion of Taiwan by 2030. Again, it's kind of loose, this statement, but okay, I'm gonna run with it. The Department of Defense noted last year in its document, The Ambitious Dragon, that if Xi continues to pursue annexation of Taiwan, the PLA will be prepared by 2027, and it looks like he's going to do this by 2030 as China's population ages. So that's a key thing you're hearing a lot about, the aging population of China. And then there was the Philippines actually withdrew from the disputed territory as China has now claimed a win. This has been going on for ages. The Philippine Coast Guard with the Chinese, they've been ramming each other. All sorts of stuff has been going on here. But the Philippines has now left the region because they just couldn't get any. There was basically a blockade, they're saying, by China. They couldn't get supplies in, and they had to leave the region. So that is an update on that one. But it's been a wild, crazy week of news. It's just sometimes you go a week and nothing really ever happens, and then other times I've got a week's worth of stories that take place in just a few hours, and that's definitely this week. There's so much that I wanted to cover on the economic side and finance, especially with the UK, what's going on in the UK. But I just couldn't even get to it. There's just too much going on. There's a lot going on in the US as well. The EU, I couldn't cover most of that, covered a lot of it, but not most of that. It's just a wild times at the moment, ladies and gents. It really is. And I just made a post in the private community today where I did a big research piece for everyone on the different kind of visas that people can get as well, just as backups. And I talked about this a while ago, just a reminder of this, that, you know, sometimes people think that they can't get visas for other countries, even as a backup. But there's a lot of countries that you can. It'll cost you a couple $100. You can get up to 5-year residency visas in some places because they want people to move there and spend money there and things like that, as their economy is not doing well. There's always options if things escalate, where, because I don't know where you are watching from. I have subscribers from all around the world, but if you are impacted by any of the stuff that I'm talking about, or in the future might come down the line, I would say always have a plan B, always have a backup plan for a lot of the things that could actually take place. But that's it for today. I hope to see you tomorrow on the live stream. Apart from that, take care, God bless, and see you then.